Welcome to Stephanie's List. I'm Stephanie Gadden, technologist and global citizen. Every episode, I open my contact book for a conversation with one of my friends. My career path has zigged and zagged through corporate IT, insurance, small business, a software startup, and many more. I always find myself making friends with the most fascinating and most unique people. So, who are these interesting individuals? Pull up a chair, grab a coffee, and settle in to find out more.
Hi, my name's Stephen Gamble, and this is Stephanie's List, and you're on it.
Hi everyone, I'm with my friend Stephen Gamble, or as I call him, Mr. Amazing. He knows that I think he's one of the best humans on the planet because I tell him every time I see him. So I'm going to let Stephen give us a little bit about him, and then we'll just see how the conversation goes and flows. We might talk a bit about what he does for a living now because that's just incredible, just like him. And we'll touch on where our lives have overlapped, how we met, maybe. We'll see how we go. So over to you, Steve. Tell my three listeners how we met.
Well, hi to the three listeners to start with. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Well, my name's Stephen Gamble, and I live on the Northern Beaches in Sydney. People may not know where it is. It's about 15 minutes drive up the coast from Manly, the iconic Manly Beach. Where did we meet? We met through my previous career working in the printing industry. I'm passionate about print, and I joined the printing industry in 1994, I think it was, after realising I wasn't going to get to where I wanted to with my marks in the HSC, and I had a dream of becoming a graphic designer. But my father, who owned a graphic design company, said to me, I'm sorry, my son, you can't join the family business. You've got zero talent. He gave me a lot of chances. And put me through a few courses, but it wasn't meant to be. And he said, well, my son, the next thing you can do is become a printer, because graphic designers create the artwork and they give it to printers, and they make it become a real life product. And so I became a printer and worked in the printing industry for, I can't even work out how long that was, but I left the industry in 2020, towards the end of 2020, to follow my other passion, which is mental health and educating people around mental health and building literacy in that area. But we met through that industry, which I'm still really involved with and still really passionate about. If everything went pear-shaped here, I don't know if I'd be any good behind a printing press, but I'd definitely throw back on the suit and jump back into sales, which I really loved. And I've met so many wonderful friends, including you, and associated with it. And I still work regularly in the industry, but just not selling consumables or machinery parts. Now I'm selling good vibes and literacy around mental health.
I love that you said you sell good vibes, because I'll say this. So we just recently had the Women in Print AGM last week, Thursday and Friday, and we did a strat day in planning for the next year. And we were discussing that I'm going to have a podcast session with you. And one of the ladies from Signage, who isn't quite familiar with you, because you worked at Botcher when I met you. I think you were still at Botcher. And so she's not quite familiar with who you are from that aspect, and she was asking about you. And before I could say anything, one of the commercial printing ladies piped up and said, Steve's wonderful. He's all about mental health, but he's got this surfer good vibes thing going on. And I thought, yes, good vibes, definitely. Yes. Yeah.
I wish I could surf more, though. I'm pretty fortunate. I can see the ocean from my house, but I don't get in it enough because of work commitments. And it's difficult running your own small business. It
Yes.
with a young family as well.
Mm.
Commitments mean that I'm at work or with the family, and we're getting the boys into surfing now. So hopefully, the lads will create opportunity for me to get more time in the water. Actually, I was
Yeah.
having a coffee this morning. Meant to have a meeting, but I got stood up by a
Oh,
dear friend and associate. They had a bit of a drama with their roof at home, and she forgot all about it. But I was in my old cafe that I used to go to, and I used to have a office
yeah.
directly across the road from the beach.
Yep.
So I'd finish a workshop online, and then I'd
Yep.
run and go have a surf quickly at lunchtime, then be back
Mm.
online
Yeah.
to uh, to facilitate another workshop. I remember it was Ball and Doggets that I did that to once, and my hair was still dripping wet. And you'll most people know this if they're surfers, but if you get dumped a few times, water
Yeah.
gets stored up in your head. And we're facilitating the workshop, and I've leant over to look at the book, and I had water just start pouring out of
Pouring.
my nose. Right. I had to can it then, but we've since moved, and we're only
Yeah.
a kilometre away and still really close to home. But we're not across the road from the beach anymore.
You
But
can't just quickly.
there is
Yes.
a skate park across the road, and I do have a skateboard here. And sometimes, if I need to clear the mind, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go for a little roll. But I did have a stack over there, and
Mm-hmm.
thought I broke my arm. I thought this is not good. I'm going to have to start rethinking this one.
Yeah. So take up something a little less fally and
Yeah,
stacky, maybe.
yeah, and understand your age. I'll never forget it. Last Christmas, I was over at the skate park with my sons. I've got a 5-year-old and two 13-year-olds,
Yeah.
and I was skateboarding around, and I had all the safety gear on, the helmet, the elbow pads, the knee pads.
Yeah.
I had this kid. He would have been probably 8. Roll up to me and said, "Excuse me, Mister, you've got your helmet on back to front."
Oh
And I
my
went, "Oh
word.
my God, I'm definitely not cool anymore. I'm definitely not cool." At least
You're not
some
good.
people think I got the vibe.
Yes, you do. You very definitely do. Um, so I only know, I think, some part of how you ended up with having a passion for mental health literacy and education. Um, Maybe tell me more about that. Like, how did you end up doing that? Like, where did it come from?
Yeah, well, in about 2015, it was actually Boxing Day in 2015, and I had just had all my family over to my place the day before to celebrate Christmas, and I was laying on the couch. Maybe I'll be brutally honest, in a bit of a food coma and maybe a
Hmm.
little bit hungover. And I was laying on the couch
Possibly.
watching some sports, and I kind of started thinking about my family and what our family had been through over the years. And I had a bit of an epiphany that I hadn't been there for the people in my world,
Hmm.
because as many of us, we've got friends and family members that may have navigated challenges with their mental health. And I
Yeah.
thought to myself about it, and I thought, well, why wasn't I there? I'm
Hmm.
always there across other areas of life. What was the barrier stopping me being there for them during these times, my friends and my family? And it really was around my literacy. And
Hmm.
through life, I've always had the mindset you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, you know what? You can always go out and learn it. And so I started upskilling myself in the background,
Hmm.
trying to learn how I could be there for my friends, my family, my work colleagues, and the people in my world, my customers. And because of my personality, I had one that people were able to be vulnerable around.
Hmm.
I'm barely 5 foot tall, and I'm not an imposing figure in any way. And people were always opened up to me. So I thought, look, if anyone wants support, I want to have the skills and the knowledge to be there for them. And so
Hmm.
I started my little journey in about 2017. I had another epiphany where I thought, you know what? If I didn't know how to support myself or the people around me, how many other
Hmm.
people are in that position? And so I decided that I wanted to make a difference there. So I quietly set up an Instagram page and a Facebook page, and I'd never had Instagram before. I'd had
Hmm.
LinkedIn and Facebook, but never had Instagram. I thought Instagram was for people like Kim Kardashian and so on.
Yes.
And I definitely didn't fit into
Yes.
that mold. But
Yep.
thought, look, people are using it, why not? And so I set up these pages and started sharing little posts about the things that gave me light bulb moments along my
Yep.
journey and little bits of insight. And we, for me, the easiest pick, the fruit to pick was males.
Hmm.
And and so I created Man Anchor, and where the word Man Anchor came from, or the word anchor came from, was I wanted to create space that men could feel that they had safety and felt heard
Hmm.
and feel stability. And I thought about the word anchor and what it meant to me, and then I looked it up and one of the many different terms for anchor is stability in uncertain times.
Yeah.
And I think that was for me was really powerful because there are a lot of men out there, well, at the time I thought
Mm.
men, that when faced with a challenge with their mental health, stability went out the window.
Yep.
They were just in survival mode and getting knocked around by rough seas or rough emotions
Mm.
and challenges. And so I thought Man Anchor fit the position that I wanted, and so I started posting online, and it was funny at the beginning. I wasn't really sure what I was doing, and I remember the first post I got 15 likes, and I went, oh my God. And the next one I got 30 likes. I went, oh my God, I'm going to be the next Kim Kardashian here, Steph.
Here we
Um,
go.
yeah, but then um, over the next few weeks and months, it slowly started to increase. But there was a little button on the old format of Instagram that had requests in the
Mm.
top right-hand corner, and I was too scared to push it because um, Tech and I don't get along very well. Funny
Mm.
enough, when I left Botcha, our IT company that we partnered with rang me and said, Steve, you're not going to survive running your own business without us. So we're going to give our services to free. We're going to give our services to you because you can barely turn on a laptop. And but I wasn't sure what it meant. And I had a big meeting that I had to go to where it
Mm.
wasn't going to be a nice one. We had we it was going to be a tough meeting. And I thought, look, in about 20 minutes, I'm going to get absolutely hammered here by a client. So the day isn't going to get any worse. I'm going to push this request button. And the thing that really surprised me, Steph, behind that request button and behind all the posts was equal as many people that were asking to talk offline about the topic around mental health. So
Wow.
the ones that were liking it weren't the ones that sent the requests for a private
Yep.
message. And that really sat with me that, for us to be able to give information to
Mm.
someone and give someone permission to be able to talk about mental health offline or in private is a really powerful tool. And so this started driving what I wanted to do was be able to give people the literacy to be able to talk about mental health, but also permission to be able to talk about mental health and empowerment to talk about mental health with their friends, their family, and their work colleagues. And still, I had not told anyone, but one day I went to our local embroiderer and I got some hats made. And when you get hats made or t-shirts made, that becomes really real. That means you've got a
Yep.
company. So in my
You
mindset,
got some
now,
merch and now you're actually a business
yeah, and I took it home
or
and
a
I showed,
thing.
yeah, I took it home and showed my wife, and she said, "What the heck is this?" And I said, "Oh, I've started something." And she went, "What have you started? What the heck is Man Anchor?" And
Hmm.
you know, she was very supportive,
Hmm.
and because of her, I think, and the support of her, it's become what it is today, where I'd work in the evening, I'd work in the day in my
Hmm.
mortgage paying job that I was really passionate about. And in the evenings, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, I'd end up going out to sporting clubs, community
Hmm.
groups, and sharing the things that I'd learned. And
Hmm.
that's what's brought us to where we are today.
Hi, listeners. If you're enjoying this conversation, could you give it a comment or a like on whichever platform you're listening? Every engagement helps us to broaden our audience and take Stephanie's List conversations far and wide. If you don't already, you can also subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Thanks for your attention. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Amazing. Well, you'll know, as a board member of Women in Print and a long-time community member of Women in Print, I'm very passionate about helping women in the industry, to find their place, to grow how many women there are in the industry. And I'd say I'm probably a bit of a feminist in that regard. But I think where you and I possibly are very aligned in thinking is in that, as damaging as the way things were for women and their career aspirations and their lives and the dreams they might have had, that structure is equally damaging for the men that are around them because, there's this enforcement of societal norms from the old days that men don't show their feelings, men don't have, men don't cry, boys don't cry, and all of those things that condition men to grow up in a world where it's frowned upon to be human. It's frowned upon to show weakness, and it's those things that I think a patriarchal society is damaging for everybody, not just, women who feel they've been disenfranchised or whatever's going on there, but for the men around them too, and the boys that they're raising. It's very damaging, and I think it's a big part of the loneliness epidemic we're seeing. And so for me, when you started Man Anchor, it took me less than a second to kind of go, this is amazing. This is amazing. Just kind of going, yes, somebody's got to give space to these guys and tell them it's okay to be sad, mad, angry, unhappy, react to things, show your emotions, or if you feel like it, like no one's going to force you, but just, understand what that feels like and know that you have a place. So I've always been very, very, very supportive, and I love what you do there, and I love how it's grown into what it is now.
Yeah. Look, I think a real sign of strength, so regardless of gender, is being able to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And it is a key leadership attribute that I've seen in some of the best leaders that I've worked with over the years. But being able to be vulnerable, give yourself permission to be human and to feel emotion, and that was one of the big things that I came to really early on when I started Man Anchor, that working just with males wasn't going to make the impact that I wanted it to make, in the sense that for us to be able to truly accept the support around mental health, to be able to truly be able to support others and support a healthier community, we need to be able to have the conversation with everyone, not male speaking to male or female speaking to male. If we think like that, we reduce our opportunity for help seeking. And if we can have everyone talking to everyone about mental health, regardless of age, gender, cultural background, then our world opens up. And so within about 12 months of starting Man Anchor, we became an organisation that worked with all gender types. But I already had the shirts and the hats. I didn't want to go change the logo straight away. And so we stayed as Man Anchor, and maybe 2 or 3 years into it, we were working with more females than we were males. It's just the way it happened. But now it's really even across the board. But we did decide to change the name, and we already had Anchor Health Group registered because what I wanted to do in the future. And I thought it was a good time about 2-3 years ago that we changed the name to Anchor Health, which is more inclusive of all gender types. it's been great. I've had to go get all new t-shirts and all new hat, but it has supported our growth and our development because with the inclusion and diversity inclusion push that has happened globally. Unfortunately, the man in the name
Hmm.
creates barriers for us, which you can understand,
Yeah.
especially around. We do a lot of work with local governments,
Hmm.
councils, and we have some really fantastic corporate partners, some of the largest companies in the country. And there was that barrier. So now it's a better representation of who we are and
Yeah.
our inclusion for everyone.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I love that it was always in your mind, even when you were still called man anchor, like it was always there, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's something else we have in common, that leaning towards the warmth and the inclusion and everybody's involved and everybody's invited. Um, Definitely. And I do relate a lot to what you said about how people just become vulnerable with you very quickly. Because I have the same, I used to think of it as a problem, but now I see it as a strength. You know, I used to get very awkward because people do. They tend to open up to me. They tend to become very, they feel very safe with me very
Mm,
quickly, like, quite quickly. And they tell me things, and I used to be very thrown by that as a 20-year-old, like,
mhm.
what are you telling me? Like, this is confronting. And now that I've let's say matured a little, because I'm not old.
Well, I'm only 21. I just,
Yeah, I can
I
see
just
it clearly.
look off.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but let's say now that I've matured with some insight and some life experience under my belt, I see it as the strength that I think it is. I see it as something that enables me to, one, be a better leader, and also be the kind of person that helps people, because that is my passion in life and has been since I was a child. When I was asked what I wanted to do in careers, very often I'd say a lot of different things, like I wanted to be a pediatrician. Or I wanted to be a hairdresser, or I wanted to be, whatever. But almost always it's because I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And I saw that career choice as a way to do that. Like that was the way I was going to help people. And understanding that has just also helped, me to kind of go, well, it doesn't really matter what I do. As long as I feel like I'm making a difference in that person's life, or I'm helping them to better themselves, or to feel better, or to look at their life. I can't fix things for people, but I can be the safe space for them, or the shoulder to cry on that they need.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I look at my life and what I do. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, it is. It's sometimes that's what people need. It's
mm,
just because when we've got those people like you, Steph, in our world, and we can talk openly and transparently around what we're feeling, what we're navigating.
yeah,
When we do that, then the problems in life, not just mental health, but the problems in life become real.
yeah,
And then we can build perspective. And someone might share their experience with you, Steph, and then it helps them find their words, and then they might go share it with a family member or a partner.
hmm,
They might go share it with a clinical professional.
yeah,
But that first step of verbalizing your experiences in life is a massive step for someone to
yeah,
go on that journey to growth or wellness when we talk
yeah.
about mental health.
Exactly. And I also see like part of that thing being people are more likely to be vulnerable, or to feel that they're safe, if they know that if you disclose stuff that you're willing to disclose. And I'm quite open about my own mental health challenges that I've had through my life, with people. Um, I wouldn't say that it's the first thing I tell them when they meet me, but you very quickly get to, like, how are you, or what's going on, and if the conversation goes in that direction, or something happens, I'm very open, about the fact that I've had anxiety most of my life from childhood, and swung between being medicated on anxiety meds and antidepressants, backwards and forwards, until finally being diagnosed with ADHD, which is really the root cause of all that anxiety and trying to
Mm,
fit in,
yeah.
And so I don't have to take anxiety meds anymore, because I have frameworks and systems around me and medication for the ADHD. So, but I'm open with people about that. I don't see it as a huge, big thing to be ashamed of or private or, any of that stuff. Because if me telling them that in one conversation helps them to help their child find a diagnosis or their understand their grown-up sister who's maybe considered the wild one in the family a little bit, if it helps them to get a different perspective on what people can do if they have neurodivergence, that opens their eyes a little bit, I see that as a good thing for the whole world.
Yeah, it is.
So yesterday I spoke to my university friend who I haven't actually spoken to in about 5 years, and we got on for our podcast recording and ended up talking for nearly 2.5 hours. But the first podcast I recorded, I spoke to someone in the US, but I asked both of them the same question, which was, what do you remember about first meeting or first sort of working with me, or what was, if you think back to like when we first kind of became aware of each other, what do you remember about me from those days?
Straight away, I could see you were extremely genuine and authentic, and I think that was the main thing that
Mm-hmm.
popped out at me. And I thought, wow, this is a wonderful human. I get to meet lots of wonderful people daily,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but yeah, that would be the thing that really stood out to me: authentic and genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And they're two wonderful qualities. So I'd like to think that I have them. Sometimes they come and go. I'm always
Yes.
genuine. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
authentic, but different times. But I could feel
Yeah.
it in. I could
Yeah.
feel it. Yeah.
I think it's a little tough for me to not be myself. Like and I think that's the neurodivergence too. Like it's just no matter how hard I try, like I
Mm,
couldn't not be me.
yeah.
Um, and I'm one of those people where I think I'm keeping a straight face, but my face is telling the story of my brain no matter what I do, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I feel very much the same about you. So your warmth and your authenticity in who you are is one of the first things that struck me about you. Um, and the second question I ask everyone is, we obviously have been friends for a couple of years now. Um, and is there anything that has changed in how you view me, or would you say you know more about me than you did when we first met? I mean, the obvious answer is yes, but kind of, what would that be? Like, how would you articulate that?
Oh, wow. Well, a lot of our meetings have been either online
Mm,
and only a handful face to face.
mm,
But no, I probably see, well, what I've seen is wonderful leadership qualities that you
mm,
have, how you can pick people up and bring them on a journey with you and inspire people. I think that's definitely, as I've got to know you better
mm.
and see how passionate you are about different things in your world, and that would be wonderful leadership qualities and really great at empowering people.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Oh,
Well, you are good at it.
thank you. Um, that's awesome. Oh, you're such a honey. So, if you had to say one sentence to someone without knowing anything of their history, what would it be?
Oh, you're the most important person in your world.
I love that.
Mm.
I love that.
I think it's
And when
important that we remember that.
I love that. When you listen to the first episode of this podcast, when we publish later this month, you'll understand why I love that. Thank you for chatting with me, Stephen. I really appreciate you making the time. Here we are. We've had another lovely conversation, and thank you very much for joining me on Stephanie's List.
Thanks for having me, Steph. Love you, mate.
Love you too. If you haven't already noticed, All my conversations go for much longer than what we edit down for the episodes. Stephen and I spoke about many other things, including mental health challenges, digging into things like how you can't fix another person and only control the things around you. And so you can look forward to a second episode of me and Stephen Gamble discussing those topics. Next episode, you'll hear a conversation between two old, long-time friends who are discussing not getting old. For now, thanks for listening to Stephanie's List. We hope you've enjoyed it. See you next time. This is Stephanie's List, and you're on it.